Through interviews, expert discussions, and narratives, we uncover pathways to resilience, innovation, and evolution. Welcome to All Things Change.
Aloha, everyone. I'm so glad that you are here with us today. We are very excited at All Things Change podcast to have to get the talk story with Kuʻuleinani Maunupau from Native Hawaiians Philanthropy. And because I know there was a name change, so I want to make sure I got it right. And to talk about the work that she's involved in around philanthropy and bringing philanthropy to Native Hawaiians and Native Hawaiians to philanthropy. She's been doing some amazing work. And so she's going to give us some insight into her work. And I'm super excited. Thank you, Kule, for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
So can you share the origin story of your organization and how you created your mission and whether or not it's evolved over time?
Yes. So I was working at Ka'ehu, a nonprofit managing 64 acres. And the Native Americans in Philanthropy and Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders in Philanthropy was holding a conference, Power and Solidarity Conference in Seattle back in June of 2022. So myself and another staff member went up to the conference and we ended up connecting with other Kanaka, Makalika Naholava'a, Native Hawaiian Legal Corps, and Sean Kanaiao Puni from Partners in Development. And we discussed, and others, and we just discussed how much this was needed in Hawaii and that there was no philanthropy organization at that time representing specifically Native Hawaiians. So we came back home and started meeting regularly. And Makalika is a lawyer, and so she was very much like, we have to do our due diligence, make sure no one's doing this, make sure we're not duplicating anyone else. And so we did do that, met with philanthropy at their different events, and no one in Hawaii at that time focused specifically on Native Hawaiians. Of course, I did not know about change makers. And so when we were doing the Oahu, there's still no other entity outside of Changemakers and Native Hawaiian Philanthropy that is specific to Native Hawaiians. So we're really excited. Officially changed the name from Maui Mixer to Native Hawaiian Philanthropy in July of 2023. Within a few weeks, the Maui wildfires happened. So what we thought was going to be sort of a slow process of starting up became a very quick process in just trying to raise monies for the survivors and help them through that transition of losing everything.
Right.
So we started from there. And the goal has always been to increase funds to Native Hawaiian organizations. So when we were establishing it, we did interview different executive directors and community leaders. We talked about our frustrations, myself also for being an executive director, of constantly raising money. So, 60% of our time, maybe probably more, spent strictly on fundraising and not necessarily the goal of the nonprofit organization. And so the goal is to eventually give out large amounts of grants for a 5-year period. And by large, I mean like 150,000 and more. So when we were interviewing the executive directors, and this is just more qualitative data, most of them said the average grant in Hawaii at that time, 2-3 years ago, was between $5,000 to $20,000, and there were no multi-year grants.
Yeah.
It was majority every year you had to continue applying, and that just doesn't provide stability for nonprofits. If you have to go after every year. And so to try to plan out sort of a long-term vision so that the ED would have and their staff would have stability and would have more time to plan out a long-term sustainable plan to keep the nonprofit going. So that was the goal of creating Native Hawaiian Philanthropy. And the main overarching was to bridge the philanthropic sector to Native Hawaiian organizations. So that's kind of the starting up story.
Yeah, that's amazing. I just love, um, I know a lot of Native Hawaiians who go someplace, learn something, and bring it back home and make it, applicable to what's going on here.
Hmm. Hmm.
So that's a great story. And even like how you've been evolving, I know. What are some of your current initiatives that are maybe that you've been have some success around or that you're really excited about that may be coming up in the future?
Um, an exciting thing that we did, we just wrapped up in September, the last week of September was the Hawaii Funders Tour. So that is a partnership with Native Americans in philanthropy and Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders in philanthropy. And that is helping bridge the philanthropic sector to Hawaii. So this past Funders Tour, we had a total of 14 foundations with their community leaders, and we did approximately 19 site visits and connected with 24 Native Hawaiian organizations. So basically took the funders into community to see the work they're doing, boots on the ground work,
Right.
engage with them, ask questions, and sort of feel the culture, like there's I know people come to Hawaii, but not too many people get the experience
Yes.
of actually engaging with Native Hawaiian communities and
Yes.
practicing and learning the culture. So that was really exciting. We did establish the Wayfinder Fund, and so we're excited that the Roy and Patricia Disney Family Foundation is the first foundation to contribute $300,000 to the Wayfinder Fund under Native Hawaiian Philanthropy. Yes, very exciting.
Yeah.
Um, so of that, 200,000 will be distributed to community. And we are just in the process of selecting our grant reviewers, and then we will distribute grants within two cycles, sorry. Um, the first one is April, and the next one is October, November. So we're still in the process of establishing, the categories, the rubrics to um, evaluate the grants and the
Right.
selection process. We working with Just Fund, we just partner with them to do the common application and help to distribute the funds. So that's exciting that that's
Yeah.
happening. Yeah. And then we partner with Magic Cabinet. So we will be attending the Native Americans in Philanthropy Conference in April at
Oh, awesome.
Riverside. Yes, and Magic Cabinet and Gerbode Foundation will co-sponsor an event with us to bring together foundations and funders to network with our partners that are coming. So
Nice.
several of the panels have been selected from Hawaii to participate.
Yeah.
So we're flying a group of about 15, possibly up to 20 people to Riverside, California to attend the conference and sort of network with possible funders, for the
Awesome.
future. So
Awesome.
that's another exciting project. And then we just had the graduation of the Native Hawaiian Storytelling Program. We had cohort one, which was 12 Native Hawaiian storytellers, graduate from a program under Michael Palmieri. And he ran Creative Labs for many years. So he is basically helping these writers turn their writings into a viable product that
Yeah.
they can pitch and sell to community. So actually, Michael was fortunate with his partnerships to connect six of the writers to KPub, Kamehameha Publishing,
Awesome.
and they were able to pitch them over the past few weeks. And I was able to just sit in the room and kind of listen to our Kanaka. And I had seen their pitches at the graduation in December at the Doris Duke Foundation at Shangri-La, and they were great pitches. And when I saw them a few weeks ago at Kamehameha Publishing, they really turned up the level and even improved their pitches from December, and really good quality work. So just proud of all the graduates from our Native Hawaiian storytelling. And then Hawaii Filmmakers Collective is starting the Youth Film Challenge. So
Wow.
for spring break, summer, fall, and winter breaks, we're sponsoring a challenge to allow Native Hawaiian content creators, youth from 12 to 24, to submit films on, what does aloha mean to me? What does Hawaii mean to me? Doing content on aloha aina and aloha kai. So yeah, really excited about our projects
Yeah.
ahead.
All kinds of so like amazing supporting both on community initiatives as well as the creative community as well, which need,
Hmm.
connection to resources in order for them to take the next step. That's
Mm.
that makes me tired because I know how much work goes on behind it, but also like really, um, you know, just so amazed about the connections you're making again with Native communities and philanthropy. That is where, both of us really sort of connect in and align together and are doing different things, but it's all really about bringing the resources to our Native communities. So
Yes,
it's very
exactly.
exciting. Um,
Exactly.
and, talking about that, I mean, I know you've gone out and you are both like bringing philanthropy to community places for them to really experience not just the Hawaiian experience, but like the need and the solution as well, and get to see it like on the ground, not just on a piece of paper. Um, and then now it sounds like you're taking those communities to the Native Americans in philanthropy to again bring them in front of philanthropic organization. What is
Mhm.
what in all that work? Um, how would you best describe the current philanthropic landscape as it relates to Native Hawaiians and their organizations? What is it looking like? I know you said when you interviewed the executive directors, the grants range, I think you said between 2,000 and 5,000,
5,000 to about 20,000.
about 20,000. What's it
That's what
looking at
was.
now? Is that the same? Sorry.
Um, no, no, no problem. So the current philanthropic, kind of background
Yeah.
for the Native Hawaiian organizations are, one, we have to address the federal government cuts, right? So federal government is cutting a lot of Native Hawaiians programs with little or, little notice, if any notice at all.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm actually flying up to Washington, D.C. for the February 10th meeting between the U.S. Department of Education and the U.S. Department of Interior. So the current administration is basically trying to transfer all of the Native programs to the Department of Interior. And this isn't something that is needed or wanted by community, both by Native American and Native Alaska and Native Hawaiians. And so there's definitely a time that community has to step up right now and advocate for their rights to make sure that the current administration isn't successful into dismantling
Right.
Native programs, or trying to create a sort of, that kind of a transition is going to take time, money,
Yeah.
and of course, just like we're experiencing, no offense, with Alaska and Hawaiian Airlines,
Yeah.
the frustrations because you're dealing with a transfer of website, a transfer of
Right.
staffing. It's created chaos in that realm. It would do much more chaos in the transferring from USDOE to DOI,
Yeah.
and with no real necessity of it. There's no need for it to be done except simply the tactics of the current,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
administration. So on the local level, I've definitely seen a tick on native, not Native Hawaiian, but Hawaii grants
Yeah.
being a little bit larger, a little more. There's been a few multi-year offering. It's not a
Nice.
lot,
Yeah.
um, and they're not unrestricted, but it's a slow step in the right direction.
Right.
But what is needed is larger grants in Hawaii, unrestricted funds, and of course specific to Native Hawaiians. It's really hard in the current landscape to determine exactly how much money in Hawaii is specific to Native Hawaiians.
Yeah.
No one has collected that data yet, but hopefully, as we advocate for the collection of that data, we'll see what is distributed in Hawaii to the Native Hawaiian community. Yeah, that's something,
Yeah.
important.
Yeah, that's interesting. I was wondering, I know, like I had read Project 2025 and I had seen the desire to pull out the Native American Alaska Native, particularly within the Department of Education
Hmm.
to the, to DOI. And I
Hmm.
was wondering like what was going to happen with, there are grants within the DOE that are very
Yeah.
specific Native Hawaiians, right?
Yes.
Like the Native
Yes.
Hawaiian Education Act, very specific.
Yeah.
But there are
Yeah.
other grants too that mention like Native Hawaiians in there, other
Hmm.
federal grants, but it's not like we're not the sole focus, like how the Native Hawaiian Education Grant.
Hmm.
And so I was always
Hmm.
wondering like what was going to happen. So it's interesting to hear that they were going to move us to DOI, which, you know, I know we don't want to be under the Department of the Interior necessarily. And I mean, it's not even like what their intentions are. I mean, like the Native Hawaiian education was created by Congress that
Hmm.
put it in the Department of Education. So it's not even like just follow your rules. And you know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like, yeah. So
Yeah.
I just that's good to know. I maybe want to hear back from you when you get back to see like how that's going. Because I've been looking for like, is the Native Hawaiian Education Act going to come up? Is it going to pop its head up? Yeah, I look forward to seeing what happens. And again, thank you for going all the way over there now and doing the work to kind of make sure, we know what's happening and where the funding is going and maybe hopefully keeping it right where it's at. Um,
Yes. Yes.
that would be, I know a lot of things that they were trying to do with Department of Education have been stopped or they're rethinking or whatever. Um, but it'd be really interesting to see what happens with
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Gosh. And so I mean you're seeing like local philanthropy, maybe putting in a little bit more money, having longer grants. Um, are you seeing any maybe changes that the native nonprofits are doing in order to position themselves better or to deal with all of these challenges?
No, so as you and I both know, the Native organizations are in and always stay within this survival mode,
Yeah.
and so they don't necessarily have the capacity. So I just met with an organization this morning because we are going to be giving out a few grants,
Nice.
and they were saying how they get invited to all these events. So we're going to do a little bit of a travel grant for people who can go out and promote, whether at philanthropic or different things that we feel like, have lasting impact if they attend this event, kind of a
Right.
thing.
Right.
So one organization said, yeah, they get invited all the time. They just don't have the budget for travel. Nobody really
Yeah.
funds kind of travel now.
Right.
So that is definitely something unique that we're providing for them is, hey, we'll help you write the proposal to get to the conference and we'll help you cover your costs while you're there. So they really don't have the capacity to do that. So that's why it's really important for Native Hawaiian philanthropy to step in and kind of help with that capacity. Um, for the philanthropic sector in Hawaii, as we spoke about, and I'll go into this, is it's a very colonized system in Hawaii. And sometimes you're in a structure, just like when you're at the Department of Education, there's nothing that says this is a colonized system. But if you understand Hawaiian systems, you understand that the education system is very colonized, basically teaching assimilation and English and Western ways. And so when you look at philanthropy, it is the same in Hawaii, very colonial. Um, a lot of the funds and foundations out there were built off of our stolen lands, right? Our exploited culture. And so it's a very complex relationship with philanthropy. And I think that it's still growing. It's still in its baby phases of them accepting Hawaiians as equal, the Native Hawaiian communities as a viable and very giving part of this community. We are the host community, we are the indigenous people of this community, and yet we often get treated like second class citizens, even
Yeah.
third class
Yeah.
citizens, you know? And so for Native Hawaiian Philanthropy, it's really up here to uplift community, not just in our community itself, but in how the world perceives us, you know? And it can be very distorted. So the world perceives us as paradise, and and we understand that we're struggling under colonization and trying to survive that, the genocide of our culture and our people, right?
Yeah.
And so on the other side, in the world, it's this paradise versus the, just the very complex history.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's trying to make sure that we are respected, that we have equal seats at the table to negotiate the future of Hawaii. And so I think the foundations and funders of Hawaii that are local um, do have to, each on each side, we have to learn how to build relations with each other.
Yeah.
I think, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think I'm guessing probably from the exposure you're providing to like authentic solutions in Native communities, probably gives them more, again, more insight than you would have on a written paper. But also the potential, I think, around maybe changing the mindset of how they do things, how they do philanthropy, and,
Exactly.
and so I think like your organization connecting community to philanthropy and developing relationships is,
Hmm.
I think, the first start. If they're willing to do that, that's a step in the right direction about,
Hmm.
building a relationship versus just building a grant application. And
Yes.
and even, I mean, before, we used to have to type and package our grant applications and
Yeah.
send them
Yeah.
off.
Yeah.
But even now, it's even more, there's even another barrier, I think, that we don't see, that I think a lot of philanthropy, because of probably the inundation of applications, is there is a lot of times an AI barrier that's put in, that you need to be able to make sure your language is going to get processed so that you
Hmm.
get to the next level of review. Um, I've talked to some philanthropic organizations that are using AI tools for sort of the first go at
Hmm.
looking at when they're getting inundated with applications. So I get it, but you know, having that's another disconnect from the personal
Yeah.
relationship.
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and your work is like so important because it actually brings people here, um
Hmm.
and get, like you said, I mean, it's a two-edged sword, right? Hawaii has brand recognition like crazy,
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
necessarily the brand we want
Yes, exactly.
because it's very exploitive and
Mhm,
extractive. But
mhm.
we can at least, I think what you're trying to do and what we're trying to do is like use that brand to bring people, but then switch it up on them, whether they know it or not, and to show like the real value of Hawaii. Yeah, I don't think I was just, who was I? Oh, I was talking to some local government officials, and I was telling them, whether it's Hawaiian immersion or culture based education, like Hawaii is way ahead nationally and is definitely a model for other communities. Definitely Native American, Alaska Native. I know we get a
Mhm,
bunch of
mhm,
people coming over here to visit immersion schools in Hilo, and they
mhm,
come to Hilo because they want to see the system you know, from Punana all the way up to PhD Kahakaula degrees. And so that's something that is innovative and amazing and that we lead in. And there's more things that we're doing, whether it's
mhm,
community reconstructing fish ponds and reimagining economies that make sense within our communities. Again, I think we're leading the way in that. And by them coming to see that work being done on the ground, philanthropy, is just is exciting to me, and I think we need more and more. Is there
Yes.
how do you identify the communities that you bring philanthropy to come and visit?
So, when Native Hawaiian Philanthropy started, and when we started interviewing those executive directors, I would ask them, "Would you be interested in partnering with Native Hawaiian Philanthropy?" And their question was pretty much, "Well, what does that mean?"
Yeah,
And I said, "Okay, so." You give us your logo, your information, we put it on our website, you promote our events to your organizations, and we are allowed to promote you when we go to philanthropic conferences. So at the Native Americans in Philanthropy, we did submit 6 proposals. Right now, 2 are accepted.
yay!
So, so yeah, we don't select who gets chosen. We sort of ask, hey, this conference is coming up. We had one grant makers in the arts conference last year. We had invited several of the artists' organizations. If they wanted to apply, we would help cover the airfare and accommodations. And so our Native Hawaiian storytelling program ended up getting selected. So we sent 4 up there.
Nice.
So we try to work with everyone and then see which proposals get selected. Yeah.
Awesome. That's exciting. I hope maybe, I mean, I can't wait to like talk to you after you leave for when is it in Native
I
American
go to DC. Oh, yeah, in April.
in April. Yeah, to hear about like what came from that and just the connections that are made. How what are how would you describe a healthy relationship between like a native nonprofit and a philanthropic organization? I know it's more, of course, there's money in there, but like there's
Mhm.
more than just money. What are the attributes, I guess, of a healthy
Yes.
partnership? Yeah.
Yes. So first, I want to say also with the Native Hawaiian organizations, we do vet them, right?
Mm,
So because what we know over the past 30 years, like when you saw an RFP for, let's say, health and wellness for Native Hawaiians, a lot of times you're competing against, national organizations that are going to, especially when it came to workforce development, you
yeah.
got Altres who are going to apply for a grant, even though there's no cultural grounding, no cultural approach at all. uh, and so the importance with our community organizations is we know they're from community.
Mm,
We know they work with Native Hawaiians. We know they serve Native Hawaiians. And again, all of our partners, they don't only serve Native Hawaiians, they serve the larger general public and tend to bring in more Native Hawaiians because of their programs grounded in Hawaiian culture. But it is open to everyone. And so we want to make sure that we have native led, native grounded types of programs and leaders that we support. And then we feel comfortable, right? We don't want to send somebody or send an organization that doesn't align with our values. And we as Kanaka over the past 20, 30 years, and I'm sure beyond my own lifetime, have dealt with nonprofits or community leaders that don't have our best interests at heart. Maybe their interest is raising as much funds as they can. And
mhm.
sometimes we've experienced that where they come in, get millions of dollars, and then they disappear. And you're like, what happened to that? Whatever
Yeah.
happened to that study? Whatever that happened to those people that use our credentials and names to get a grant and then they disappeared,
Right.
so we're doing it both on both sides, which is one, making sure we have a solid nonprofit organization that is serving community, and on the other side, we make sure we have funders that aren't going to take advantage or just use the organization for to build up their name,
Mm, yeah.
um, and so we make sure that those. So when we did the funders tour, of the 12 that we had brought, 14 were included as speakers and were involved. But of the 12 that were selected for the funders tour, about 6 people were rejected because one, they weren't a funder, so they weren't there to fund. They were more there to learn.
Yeah.
Um, and two, they didn't fund in Hawaii necessarily or did those types of community and cultural programs.
Yeah.
Um, so we do want to make sure that we are selective of who we bring, make sure that intention is to support Native Hawaiian communities and to invest in Hawaii.
Nice. Awesome. Oh, well, I want to sort of wrap us up, and like thank you for sharing all of the wonderful things that you folks are doing and the knowledge that you have acquired from before this work and then definitely during this work.
Yeah.
What message would you like to maybe end with, to share with any like allies, funders, or even Native nonprofits, regarding philanthropy and maybe your work?
Yeah, yeah. I think I liked about our conversation on our last, recording. We were talking about decolonizing wealth, right? And so that's what Native Hawaiian philanthropy is trying to do. We're looking at the book Decolonizing Wealth, which is a great resource of understanding the current structure of philanthropy in Hawaii and throughout the US and what needs to be done to shift that. And I think Decolonizing Wealth does a great job sort of explaining that. And so it gives me a language that I can use. So when I get question of, oh, you're not a philanthropy serving or you're not doing it correctly, it's because they don't understand the approach, right? And to say that we're decolonizing philanthropy in our approach, we're not creating something new.
Yeah,
Natives have done this we're doing it in different ways.
right.
And so we're decolonizing our approach to make sure that it honors and respects the Hawaiian culture, the people, the blood, sweat, and tears that they put into their communities to do these great projects. Um, and then to ask philanthropy to put a mirror on yourself,
Yeah,
not on yourself, but your whole structure, your whole system of how you hire, who you distribute the funds to, who's your grant reviewers. So it's asking philanthropy to also take the necessary steps to decolonize their systems, to make it a level playing field so that Indigenous communities, not just Native Hawaiians, but all Indigenous communities, um, and of course it impacts people of color,
yeah.
can access the wealth of resources that is available out there. I did go to a Donors of Color Network conference in May last year in Houston, and one of the speakers spoke about how currently philanthropy right now and the wealthy right now have enough funds in the world
Mm-hmm.
to end homelessness, to end hunger, and
Yeah,
to end war.
yeah,
And because of the current structures, the current colonial structures, the current capitalist structures, that's not possible because a few hold the wealth of many.
yeah.
And so once that system is decolonized and we can really, truly, not this trickle down effect, but
Right,
this
right.
more egalitarian, right? This equal effect of distribution of wealth, then we will really live in a just community, right? Which is what we're all seeking, is peace and justice for all.
Yeah,
And so I think that's powerful for the world, for the masses to understand that there is enough wealth, there is enough wealth in this world to end poverty, homelessness, and have a just society. And it's just a matter of making sure that those that have it in their hands release it and
yep,
give it back to community.
yeah. I mean, yeah, I agree with you. And that I think is the fight of right now. Of That's what we're up against, and I think you can, if I, you can take it. We can take it out of your taxes, or you can have it distributed via philanthropy.
Hmm.
So that I think that's the fight right now, I think. And like you said, like a lot of that wealth is held by a handful of people, that do have foundations, but even in this crisis time are distributing, the 5% required by IRS.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
know
It's
many of
not
them have
enough.
increased, right? To 7,
Yes.
10, maybe 20 on the high end. And that's a lot of money for a lot of these when you look at like what is held in their core accounts or the foundation
Hmm.
money,
Hmm.
but there's more room. And yeah, yeah.
Trying to convince someone,
Mhm.
like there's this post going around about if we were studying animals and there was one ape that hoarded all the food to himself,
Right,
they would naturally think that something is wrong with that specific animal. But as human, it's like, oh wow, look at how much they've hoarded,
right,
when it
right.
is not healthy for humanity, it's not healthy for Mother Earth, that any type of hoarding in that sense happens, because even that 5% should be increased just naturally, because when you think about it, also in a family member, say you have a family and you folks are all on an acre of land, and the drought comes and you have this whole barn full of food, and you're like, no, 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 we can't eat that food because that's for the future generations, that's for the next 10 years, so let's starve now and barely make it while this wealth is there. It's the same thing, like there is no need to only give away 5%, when humanity needs it now, the earth needs it now. And if the money was invested now, it's not like it's not going to be a long term. It is a long term impact when you
Yeah,
feed everyone, when you
yeah,
give them housing,
yeah,
a sense of peace.
yeah.
It improves the living conditions, but it also will create a sustainable world.
Yeah. Imagine all the inventors that are out
Hmm.
there that are just struggling to put a roof over their head. If they didn't have to focus on that and could use their God-given talents to move our society forward, how much further we would be
We
in
would be, yeah.
creative products. I mean, just so, I mean, when you think about like us, right? We reconfigured our work day so that we would be working smart early in the morning or later and or later in the afternoon when the sun was low. And when the sun was high, we were doing our crafts. We were doing
Hmm.
our creativity piece or resting at the same time. But
Hmm.
I mean,
Hmm.
there was doesn't make sense to be out in the blazing hot sun, but you can also be a contributing member of society by creating your arts, by becoming an amazing chanter, or all the things that make a rich society.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
definitely.
that's
I know.
we gotta go bring that forward, right? And the
Yeah.
mindset. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Revolution's happening. It's coming.
It I think and that's one thing I keep looking at, like what's going on in our nation, in the world, and how do we best position ourselves and move the movement forward within the
Mhm, mhm.
current context. And
Yes.
sometimes the movement moves forward under stress, right? And
Yeah. It's
most
pushed
of the
forward.
time,
Yeah, yeah.
actually, right, is when it's like there's a lot of stress that there's a movement to some system change, hopefully. We'll see.
Yes.
We'll see.
Yes.
So, Kule, how can people who are listening find your organization, Native Hawaiian Philanthropy?
Yes. So you can find us on Facebook and
Okay.
Instagram, also LinkedIn. And
Okay.
then we do have a website, nativehawaiianphilanthropy.org.
Okay.
And we also have a website for the Wayfinder Fund, which
Okay.
is wayfinderfund.org.
ORG. Awesome. Well, again, just mahalo nui for coming today and for sharing what your organization, the amazing work your organization is doing, meeting such an important need for Native Hawaiian nonprofits. And so, if you're a Native Hawaiian nonprofit out there and are interested in getting connected, understanding philanthropy, then contact Native Hawaiian Philanthropy. And we're just super excited. And I guess we'll see everybody on next month podcast. Thank you for coming. Aloha.